This is the first story of the Sensational Spider-Man, Part 2 of 4. Location, Parker residence. Time, 6:55 p.m. Peter arrives home and he goes through the front door. Aunt May is in the kitchen washing dishes and Uncle Ben is watching the news on the TV. Uncle Ben says to Peter, "Hey, Sonny, where have you been? It's been an hour and a half since you left." Peter smiles and says to Uncle Ben, "The traffic downtown was intense. I had to take the long way back home." Aunt May stops washing dishes and puts food on the table for Peter to eat. She says to Peter, "Your dinner is ready, dear." Peter walks up the stairs and says, "All right, I'll be down in a minute." Aunt May goes over to Ben and asks him with curiosity, "Where do you think that boy went to?" Ben laughs and says, "Oh, May, Peter's just doing what teenagers do. He's growing up. You do remember how things were when we were his age." As the two are sitting on the couch, knowing that things were supposedly natural for Peter, the news comes up about the former champion Crusher Kane being beaten by Spider-Man. Peter puts his costume in the drawer and he pulls out the cash and the business card he just got. He looked back at it every second as he was changing. He says to himself, "Well, I sure hope everything goes well tomorrow." After he changes, he goes downstairs to eat his dinner, have a good rest of the night, looking forward to what he's going to do tomorrow. Location, Midtown High School. Time, 12:27 a.m. Peter's class just ended and he's going over to get his lunch. As he is going to find a seat, he hears behind him, "There you are, Peter." Peter turns to see that it was Harry and Gwen. Harry asks Peter as they were all taking a seat, "What happened to you? That bus came rushing by and when it passed, you just disappeared. Where did you go off to, Pete?" Peter thought for a moment on how he should tell his friends. He just simply said, deciding to still keep his identity secret for now, I was just in the neighborhood, pretty much getting things back together after the show Mr. Warren showed us." Gwen nods and sees the bite on Peter's hand no longer bloated up or in pain looking. She says, "Well, I'm just glad you're all right. That fight with Flash, I didn't expect you to stand up to him like that. It was incredible." Peter smiles with a little blush. He says, "To be honest, Gwen, I didn't think I had it in me." Harry says to Peter, "Well, I knew you had it in you. Can't wait to see Flash's face if he sees you again." The three laughed as Peter is looking around for Flash, but he was nowhere to be seen. Off in the distance, Flash watches with Liz and Sally as Peter and his friends are continuing on talking about their day. Flash asks, "Ready for the plan?" The two nod with smirks on their faces. As Peter and his friends finished their lunches, they were walking and talking some more about Mr. Warren's experiment and how the once ill rat was now healed. Liz and Sally made a scene in which Liz passed out on the floor. Sally yells out, "Help! Liz has fainted." Everyone circled around and were seeing if she was all right. Harry and Gwen went into the group. Before Peter was going to, Flash grabbed him by the backpack and brought him to the gym. As the two entered the gym, Flash pushed Peter to the wall and says, "You're not going to run away like the wimp you are. We are finishing this fight right here, right now." Peter tells Flash with his fists clenched, "You've bothered me for the last time, Flash. I'm not afraid of you anymore." Flash smirks and says, "You will be, wimp." Flash raised his fists and went for the attack. Peter wasted no time and grabbed Flash's fist. He kicked Flash back and Flash hit the floor hard. He got up while groaning in pain. How are you so fast, Parker?" Peter doesn't say anything. He just ignores it. Flash charged with anger and striked right and left. Peter blocks them with his arms in front of his face to protect himself. When Flash was low on energy, Peter grabbed him by the shirt and smashed him to the wall. Flash says to Peter with worry, "Pete, stop. I was just joking." "You should have thought of that before," Peter said with a fist out. Before Peter could even give Flash a hard hit on the face, the principal comes in. He says to Peter, "Drop him now." Peter quickly lets go and Flash falls. The principal says to them both with a disappointed expression, "The second day of school? Really? Parker, you're coming with me." Peter says to the principal, But sir, I did..." The principal interrupted Peter. "I don't have time for this, Parker. Come with me, now." As the principal and Peter are walking through those gym doors, Peter looks back at Flash, whom he sees was even more afraid than before. Now Flash has underestimated him. Location, principal's office. Time, 12:50 a.m. Peter was sitting by the door where the principal was talking with his Uncle Ben. Peter reflected on the experience in the gym with Flash over and over again. He says to himself, "What in the world was I thinking? I could have injured Flash. Possibly could have killed him." He hears the door open and Uncle Ben comes out with a disappointed face. Uncle Ben says, without looking at Peter, "Come on, we're going home." As Peter and Uncle Ben are walking out of the school, Peter says to him, "Look, Uncle Ben, Uncle Ben looks at him and asks him, "What were you doing? This isn't the Peter I know. What's gotten into you, boy?" Peter tells his Uncle Ben while trying to think of the good reasons. "Flash was the one that started the fight, Uncle Ben. He's been bothering me for years. I just wanted to get back at him, make him stop for once." Uncle Ben tells Peter, "Just because he could fight, it doesn't mean you have the right to. There are other ways to solve these kind of problems. I know you know that, Peter." As they arrive at the front doors of the school, Uncle Ben looks at Peter, seeing a tear in his eye. Uncle Ben sighs and puts a hand on Peter's shoulder, having compassion on him. Uncle Ben says to Peter, "I am proud of you, Peter, for standing up on what you believe was right. I just want to make sure you're okay. Ever since yesterday, you distanced yourself from us, but we completely understand. You're getting to that age where me and May won't make decisions for you anymore. I know you had every reason to get back at this Flash Thompson fellow, but just know that whatever choice you make, there will be severe consequences. Always make the right choices. With great power comes great responsibility, Peter. Remember that." Peter looks at Uncle Ben with a big smile and says, "Thank you, Uncle Ben." The two embrace, and afterwards they go out the door, get in their car, and were going back home. Peter knew that Uncle Ben was right. There were different ways to solve these issues, and he should do better. These powers were given to him for a bigger purpose, to probably teach him to do better from these mistakes, to learn from them. He must use these powers responsibly. He looks at his phone and sees that it was almost time for him to go meet up with the man here any minute. Peter asks his Uncle Ben, "Can you actually drop me off at Harry's? I just remembered that I gotta meet up with him." Uncle Ben says to Peter as he is taking a left, "Sure thing, Sonny." The car parks in front of Harry's home, and Peter gets out. As Uncle Ben is driving away, Peter runs into an alleyway changing into a suit. It was finally time. Location, TV Production Center. Time, 3 p.m. Peter arrives in his wrestling suit. His mask was on. He was safe. When he went in, the man welcomed him. It turns out that the man was actually the TV producer. He said to Peter as they are walking down to the room, "Today is a big day for you, Spider-Man. Before getting on set, I actually have a surprise for you." The producer opens the door, showing Peter his headquarters on where he can get ready. And Peter sees in the back, near a closet, was his new suit hanging. Peter asks the producer, "Wait, that's for me?" The producer nods and says, "It sure is. Put it on and meet me at the deck in a few minutes." As the producer is closing the door, Peter takes his mask off and he goes to the suit to get a better look at it. It was a beautiful suit indeed. A full spandex body costume that had the colors red, white, and black. On the red, it had black lines that represented the lining of a spiderweb. Under the arms were two giant sheets that were clear. Peter believed they were supposed to be like little gliders or something like that. He picked the suit up and looked at the mirror. He says, "This is definitely my type. Not a big fan of these underarm things, but I'll make it work." He took off his wrestling suit and put on his new costume, becoming a for sure sensational Spider-Man. He went out onto the deck and met up with the producer. The producer smiles as he is putting out his used cigarette. "Ah, it suits you. All right, so here's what you're going to do." The producer showed in the background a big room with items in it. There was a candle on a table, a barbell that had 100 pounds weight on each side, and an opening in the ground that looked like it had to be jumped across, about 50 feet. The producer said to Spider-Man, "So first, when I give you the signal, you're going to shoot your web-looking lining at that candle to try and put it out. For the second, you're going to lift that 200-pound barbell. And for the third, you're going to try to jump across this 50-foot-long ditch without falling in it. Get into places, everyone. You too, Spider-Man. We start in a few seconds." Spider-Man sees as everyone is getting into place. He goes behind a curtain on where he was told to enter when the filming was taking place. He sees the producer going out to the front. The producer says to the screen, "Hello, ladies and gentlemen of New York City. Today we got a special one for you. Today we are joined by the new champion that defeated the former champion Crusher Kane, Spider-Man." The screen went over to the curtain and Spider-Man came out. He waved at everyone as they applauded and looked at his new costume. Spider-Man goes by the producer and they shake hands. The producer says to the screen, "Now on to today's special event. Spider-Man is going to try to put out the candle from a far off distance, lift up 200 pounds, and jump across a deep ditch. Will he succeed? Let us find out." The producer leaves the stage, and the screen moves to show Spider-Man's side. Spider-Man stands 20 feet away from the candle that was on the table. He points his wrist at the candle and shoots out a web. The web goes at the candle and puts the flame out. Everyone gasps, oohs, and ahs as they see the impossible done. The producer says in the background in pure shock, "He did it! Let's give him a hand." Everyone applauded as Spider-Man is going over to the next course. Everyone becomes silent as Spider-Man squats down to pick up the barbell. Spider-Man picks it up with one hand and says, "This weight is nothing." Spider-Man then keeps the weight steady on one finger and the applause is going louder than before. The producer asks in shock, "How is this even possible?" Spider-Man places the barbell on the floor and walks over to the final course. He says as he is running, "I don't only have good aim and strength, but I also have great speed and great agility." He jumps high in the air and he goes across the ditch. He shot out a web and swung across the ditch. He does a few backflips and lands onto the floor, succeeding. Everyone cheers even louder than the other two times. The producer comes forth as Spider-Man is bowing and waving at the camera. The producer makes his way to Spider-Man and shakes his hand. He says to the camera, "Ladies and gentlemen, wasn't that something? Wow. Well, we are unfortunately out of time, but next time, maybe we'll bring back our famous spider." Spider-Man, do you have anything to say? Spider-Man says, just stick around some more. The producer laughs and says, good one. All right, well, it's time for us to go. See you all tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. The camera stopped, and it was all done. Just like that. Everyone in the crew came to Spider-Man and applauded. They wanted to ask him about how he does it. What is his secret? The producer patted Spider-Man on the arm and said, you are even mightier than I've imagined. You should come by again tomorrow. We will have even more challenges for you to make. Spider-Man tells the producer, I'll see if I have time. Well, I gotta get going. Take care. Spider-Man swings out of there and decides to stick with the costume. He found it more dramatic and good-looking instead of his wrestling suit. During this, at the Parker residence, two men are walking down the street. One says to the other, remember the plan. We go in stealthy, get whatever valuables we can find, and get out unnoticed. The other said back, don't worry, Aaron Davis. I may not have done this as long as you have, but there's no need to treat me like a child. I got this. Aaron and his partner got out their guns and snuck in. Inside, Uncle Ben and Aunt May were in the kitchen getting things ready for dinner when Peter came back home. When they hear the door open, Aunt May says, oh, Peter, you're home. Aunt May comes out of the kitchen and screams in horror. Uncle Ben comes out as well and stands in front of May to protect her. Aaron's partner points his gun at them, with Aaron saying, you two, we are not here to hurt you. Just give us the valuables you got and we'll be on our way. Ben says to them, there's no need for violence, gentlemen. Aaron's partner says to Aaron, come on, let's take them out before they can call the police. Aaron says to his partner, no, we agreed to go in stealthily. I did not agree to kill. Aaron's partner says, if you won't, then I will. Aaron screams no as he tackles his partner down. The partner pulled the trigger and a big bang went out, alarming everyone in the neighborhood. What could be heard next was Aunt May's screaming. Aaron sees in horror Uncle Ben falling back with a gush of blood coming out of his side. Aaron's partner pushes Aaron off of him and he runs out of there. Aaron sees this and he looks back at May and Ben. What have I done? Aaron asks himself before getting out of there and running into the shadows. The story continues in part 3.